Today's topic is mastering the art of zero-touch deployments. Again, I'm your webinar host. My name is Tad Johnson here with Jamf. And what we're going to talk about today is, here we go, a few quick topics. First, I want to provide a brief overview of Jamf Pro, talking about the software that we offer here at Jamf. Then we'll talk about the different Apple deployment programs. We'll talk about some of the benefits of implementing a zero-touch deployment methodology. And then we'll look at what does this process actually look like for both Mac and iOS. And then finally, as time allows at the end of the session today, I'll do my best to answer as many of your questions as I can. So first off, let's talk about Jamf Pro. Now, some of you may be familiar with the previous name of Jamf Pro. This was just renamed last month from Casper Suite to Jamf Pro. So you might still see other content that refers to Casper Suite. Just know that this is a naming change. The two are synonymous. Jamf Pro, Casper Suite. This is just the new name for Casper Suite. And what is it? The Casper Suite, there it goes. I did it myself. Jamf Pro, I should say, is a Apple device management tool. So the way this works is Jamf Pro is a server-based management tool, meaning you can deploy that on your own server on-premise. That server can be running Mac OS, Linux, Windows, or we can host your Jamf Pro server for you in Jamf Cloud. Every device that you're managing will then communicate with that server, and you as an IT professional can interact with Jamf Pro through a web browser. So it's a very easy to use tool, and because it's using common secure HTTP for most of the interaction, this works in just about any network infrastructure. Now, what does Jamf Pro do for you? Jamf Pro implements mobile device management for Apple devices. So this includes deployment. We're going to talk lots about that today. But it also offers a way to collect inventory so you can know all of the details of all the hardware and software in your environment. You can create and deploy configuration profiles. This gives you a way to do to change the settings of your devices for things like security settings or app configurations, or simple things like how it connects to the Wi-Fi in your environment. You can also use management commands. These can be useful for things like if a device is lost or it gets stolen, you can send a management command to automatically lock or wipe that device. Of course, we can do app deployment, whether that's an app coming from the App Store or a third-party app that you're deploying yourself, or even a custom in-house app that you've developed specifically for your organization. And then finally, security. All the critical security rules like passcode enforcement, encryption of data, and secure networking configurations. So all this is available through Jamf Pro, but today we're really going to focus on that first one, deployment. Now, the other piece that we offer in Jamf Pro is actually a user-facing tool, and this is called self-service. So the idea with self-service is, as an IT professional, you are configuring the way you want Jamf Pro to work. For example, you are creating the configuration profiles. You're choosing what software is available through Jamf Pro. But what you can do with this is you can make a self-service tool available for your users so that they can go in and install things on their own. They can install software. They can add a new VPN setting, for example. And this is a very user-friendly way to do that last mile of support and deployment. And in fact, we'll talk a little bit more about this towards the end, because even though this is not strictly part of that deployment process, we've found that pairing zero-touch deployment with this self-service tool can be a really helpful way to kind of complete that deployment workflow. And then last, as a quick, just a very simplified diagram of the communication that goes on between your managed devices and Jamf Pro. Jamf Pro makes use of the Apple Push Notification Service. This is a globally available service that is maintained and managed by Apple, and all Apple devices will communicate with this service. The way this works is wherever these devices are in the world, they will periodically check in with Apple Push Notification Service, and when it's time to receive a management update or it's time to update their inventory with Jamf Pro communicates with the Apple Push Notification Service. The push notification service communicates with your device, and then each device will then establish a two-way secure connection with the Jamf Pro server. What can you do at that point? This is how you can do things like deploying configuration profiles, updating settings, or deploying apps. Again, this is what we call mobile device management, or MDM. That applies both to the iOS devices as well as Mac OS computers. We even go one step further with Mac OS, where we also have a admin account that's local on the machine and a Jamf agent, so you can do more advanced tasks like running custom scripts or management commands, installing packages that are either custom packages or something that comes from a third-party developer, not through the App Store. And we call this framework the policy framework. So all this together is Jamf Pro, and this is how you can manage all of your Apple devices, whether those are running iOS or macOS. Okay, let's talk about Apple deployment programs. So these have now been around for a few years. Here we go. Apple introduced the concept of these deployment programs a few years ago, and there's a couple different ones I want to highlight. First is the Device Enrollment Program, sometimes abbreviated DEP. And the Device Enrollment Program, that's what we're going to talk most about today. This is what allows you to do that concept of zero-touch deployment. Any device that's enrolled, any device that's enrolled with the Device Enrollment Program can automatically enroll itself in your management server, in your Jamf Pro server, straight out of the box. So it means that you as an IT person don't have to actually touch each device to get them up and running. Really cool. The other major program, Volume Purchase Program, or VPP, this is how you can purchase and deploy apps coming from the iOS or Mac App Store. So if you're interested in getting all the great software available through the App Store, getting that to your users and purchasing it centrally, this is how you can do it with the Volume Purchase Program. And then if you're an education institution, you can use these programs through a third Apple deployment program called Apple School Manager. Apple School Manager takes the best of the Device Enrollment Program, the best of the Volume Purchase Program, and adds additional education-specific deployment features. And this is available to anyone who's supporting a school. If you haven't yet signed up for these, I'd really encourage you to go out there and go to deploy.apple.com, and that's when you can, that's where you can enroll your organization in these deployment programs. There's a little bit of paperwork that goes through here because this is a very powerful tool, and so Apple wants to ensure that that you really are working for the organization that you say you are. So I would say if you're not yet using these, don't delay. As soon as we're done here today, go out to deploy.apple.com and at least sign up. Even if you're not going to use it right away, it's better to have that option to begin testing, and you can experiment with this. And then, as I mentioned, Apple School Manager. Again, if you're working for an education institution, I would strongly encourage you to check out Apple School Manager. This is available at school.apple.com. And this takes the Device Enrollment Program and the Volume Purchase Program, and it adds additional school-focused features for things like managed Apple IDs, Classroom app, lots of other great stuff. We're not going to dive too deep into the Apple School Manager today, but we do have other webinars on this topic if you're interested in that. So now to the subject at hand. Why do we want to go down this path of the zero-touch deployment model? Well, the first easy answer is this is an opportunity to really maximize your time as an IT professional and maximize the value that IT is providing to the organization. If we think about there's always more requests or more demands for your time than there are hours in the day. And we know that there's a lot of different ways that IT can provide value to the organization. Now that we have other options that do not require a lot of kind of manual hands-on work, eliminating some of those shall we say, low-value setup times, like the time it takes to actually take a machine out of the box, remove all the plastic, shrink wrap, plug it in for the first time, install software. That's not a super high value task. Obviously, getting to the point where a device is ready to use, that's our goal. But we have this zero-touch model where we can actually automate much of that, or we can simply empower the end user to set that device up themselves. So we see this as really, first and foremost, a way to optimize IT's time. But the other important distinction is a little bit of that human psychology piece. Instead of as an IT professional, you bring your users a machine that's already set up. It has all of their software on it. It has their accounts already created, and they're simply the users on that device. Versus, you give someone a brand new device still in its box. They unwrap it. They turn it on. They go through the setup steps. By doing this model where the user is the one who's setting up their computer, they get more of that sense of ownership. And what we've found working with customers is that this can translate into a better overall experience down the road and a decreased reliance on calling the IT help desk every time there's a minor issue. Because the users have that sense of ownership of the device, that they've been a part of the setup process from the beginning, it can actually improve the relationship between the users, the technology itself, and then the IT support team. So there's really benefits on both sides to doing this, to embracing this zero-touch concept. So what does this look like? If we're talking about a Mac running Mac OS, there are several different ways that you can do enrollment. Imaging, this is still a workflow that you can do where you take an image of an operating system with all the software that you need, and you deploy that in one big process. Using Jamf Pro, you can scan your network for devices and enroll them that way. You can also have a user self-enroll a device once it's already set up. And of course, we can use Device Enrollment Program. For iOS, again, there are other options. Apple Configurator is a way that you can set up devices in mass by plugging them into a Mac running Apple Configurator. Again, you can do this user-initiated through a web browser. And of course, Device Enrollment Program is our zero-touch model. So we call this zero-touch. This means that, of course, the device doesn't just pop out of the box and set itself up. The users are going through this process, but importantly, it means that the IT pro who's supporting this doesn't have to individually touch and set up each of these devices. So let's look at what this looks like on a Mac. So even before you start buying devices, there's a couple of setup tasks that you're going to want to do. The first one, in preparing for this zero-touch deployment, is, of course, signing up for the Apple deployment programs. Again, deploy.apple.com or school.apple.com if you're a school. And there you're going to sign up for the DEP and VPP programs. Then there's a task of linking your deployment accounts with your Jamf Pro instance. That's done in a very secure way where you download a cryptographically signed token, you upload that into your Jamf Pro server, and that's what establishes the link so that your Jamf Pro server can communicate with your devices and only your devices. And then you can configure how you want that enrollment process to work. So, for example, you can skip certain setup steps during the enrollment process. You can define what other settings you want to be applied as part of enrollment, and you can turn on that self-service feature, for example. Then when it comes time to purchase hardware, you're going to want to purchase your Apple hardware either directly from Apple or through an authorized reseller who is enrolled in as a DEP authorized reseller. Now, regardless of where you are in the world, I shouldn't say that. DEP is available in many countries around the world. And in all those countries where it's available, there are multiple different resellers where you can buy your hardware. So if there's any question about this, you can just ask the reseller that you're working with today, or when in doubt, you can always order hardware from Apple directly. The reason that this is important is that at that time of purchase, you are associating the specific devices that you're purchasing as identified by their unique identifier. You are associating those with your Device Enrollment Program account, and that's how this association is made when the device actually turns on and checks in. Once you've ordered the hardware, you can then assign your devices for enrollment inside of Jamf Pro. And you can either do that individually, where you select specifically which devices you want to be used for this Device Enrollment Program, or you can just say, everything I order, I want it to be enrolled through DEP. Then when it comes time to actually deploy this is where the magic happens. So you can send these devices directly to the users. They can be straight from the factory to your users, still in their shrink wrap boxes. Then the user can unbox it. They get to go through that nice process of admiring the well-crafted packaging that all of our Apple devices come in. They power it on the first time. They go through those simple setup steps that I'll show you here in just a minute, and then those devices are automatically enrolled in your management server. Really neat. So what does this look like? These enrollment settings, this is what you can configure inside of Jamf Pro. So you can, first off, you get to kind of specify some of the information about your organization. So you can do things like offering your organization name, how they can contact you if they run into any problems. And you can also assign it to a site. So for example, if you have multiple offices spread out around the world, you can have different offices automatically assigned within Jamf Pro. When it comes to authentication, you could decide with user accounts and authentication, you can decide how you want the user account to work on the Mac. So for example, some organizations prefer that everyone is has a local admin account. Others prefer that they have a local account that's a non-admin or a standard account. And others prefer that they use Active Directory to do all of your authentication over the network. All of those are available, and you can define that through the enrollment settings. And then, as I mentioned, you can also customize what the setup process is going to look like. So you can skip things like the prompting for accepting terms of service, prompting for going through the registration, prompting for restoring or setting up as a new device, and you can customize that to fit your organization's needs. So this is what that process looks like when we put it all together. You send them the brand new Mac that's still in its box. You can add a Post-it note. This is kind of how we do it at Jamf. Of course, this part's optional, but it's kind of fun. This is the extent of the instructions that we give to our new employees. Then when they power it on, they'll go through the standard Mac setup screens. So they'll select where they are. They'll select their keyboard. Now, this is important. They do have to join a Wi-Fi network, or of course, you could plug into an Ethernet adapter if you have that handy. But it's important that they have to be able to connect to the network in order to complete this enrollment process. So as you're thinking about how you're going to do this at your organization, you want to either ensure that there's a guest network that people can join, or you might even make a public network that's available or that's open and available so that people can do this process. Then the Mac is going to check in with the Device Enrollment Program. It now knows that it is owned by your organization, and so it's going to automatically enroll itself with the Jamf Pro server. At that point, we're going to create our local account. Again, you can define whether this is a local admin account or whether it's a local standard account. Finishes up, goes through the setup steps. Here we are. We're at our desktop. Everything's brand new and shiny. And then the last step here, and this is important, is Once that setup process finishes, you can even send a notification to your users, kind of cluing them in that, yep, this is all done, you're ready to go. And what I would recommend is then automatically launching that self-service tool. So this is where, there we go. This is where your users can then take that next step and they can begin to install the additional software that they need for their Mac. Again, self-service, you are completely in control of what's available through this tool. You can make any software packages, any scripts, any configurations available through here. And what we've found over doing this for over many years with lots of different organizations is that this is, again, a really good way to ensure that the users have the tools they need, that they know where to go if they need another piece of software. They're not trying to just find it on their own and potentially downloading the wrong versions. And this is a way to really establish that concept that the user is responsible for the kind of the care and feeding of their Mac. So we really like using this inside of Jamf, and we found that lots of our customers do as well. So now that we saw what that looks like on a Mac, let's go through that same process for an iOS device. Again, this part is really essentially the same. You set up those accounts. You only need one account, so you can have one DEP account can be used for both Mac and iOS devices. Same process where you're going to order your hardware from a DEP authorized reseller. And then at the deployment, it's really, again, the very, very same workflow where users are powering them on for the first time, and then they go through the simple setup steps. The enrollment settings are slightly different just because, there's no local account you need to create on iOS. There's also the concept of supervision on iOS. A supervised iOS device is a way to, essentially, you're setting an additional flag that this is a organizationally owned device. This is not a BYOD or not a personal device. And by setting that supervision flag, it allows you to do a few more management steps along the way. Again, same idea here. You can set up how you want the enrollment to process, whether or not you want to skip the setup steps. And putting it all together, it looks something like this. So we've got our box. Brand new iPad still in the box. We're going to power it on, and it'll automatically go through this setup assistant. This should look very familiar if you've set up an iOS device in the recent past. I'll choose my language. I'm going to choose my region. And then it's going to prompt me to join a Wi-Fi network. Again, the reason that it needs the network at this point is that it needs to be able to communicate both with the Apple servers, and it needs to communicate with your Jamf Pro management server. So what we do here at Jamf is we have a guest account that is segmented from our secure internal network, but it's available to connect to the internet. So it's an easy way for anyone to connect here and complete their enrollment. Once we're connected to the Wi-Fi, it's gonna identify that this iPad needs to be configured. It will automatically deploy that configuration. And then once it's ready, now I'm ready to go I'm ready to start using my iPad. And you might notice that we skipped a bunch of those additional setup steps. Again, that's optional for you. And I would say you can choose which of those setup steps are required or are useful depending on your organization. And now I've got my new iPad all ready to go, and it is managed by Jamf Pro. So I showed you what it looks like on a Mac. I showed you what it looks like on an iPad. Again, this would be the same process on an iPhone or even an iPod Touch if you have those. And the really cool thing here is that all these setup steps, this is being done by the user. Like you as an IT pro, you don't need to touch these devices. You can have them sent directly to your users. So where do we go from here? Thinking about this, a few other tips to kind of round out this process for you. First off, I've mentioned this a few times, but you can do this the zero touch enrollment process for the initial device setup, and you can use the self-service tool for that next layer of installing applications, installing software. But really, this can be just the beginning of a very self-help oriented IT experience. And what we've found is our customers who are most successful with their Apple device management programs offer many different self-help solutions along the journey. So, for example, a lot of organizations are doing something like a Genius Bar or a walk-up help desk, so that I don't necessarily have to submit a ticket and wait for IT to get back to me and go back and forth on email. If I have a problem that I can't easily solve myself, I can simply walk up to my help desk and get immediate resolution right there. But even before that, thinking about things like a crowdsourced wiki of common solutions, so that if someone has an issue, they don't even need to call IT or need to go to that self-service help desk. They can find that answer based on the wisdom of the crowd, whether that's created by IT or created by my fellow users. So there's lots of different ways to do this, but what we see as a trend is that the more self-help solutions you can offer, at the end of the day, you're going to have happier users, and you're going to have a much more efficient and productive IT group. Number two, this is a fairly significant departure from how you might have been doing it previously. We really encourage that our customers go through some prototyping rounds, test this out, and get user feedback. Try to find a couple of users who'd be willing to go through this process on their own and find out where do they get stuck or where do they get confused. And it gives you a chance to really to kind of circle back and make sure that all those issues are resolved. Number three, manage as little as possible. Meaning, if you don't need to specify every single setting on a device, then don't. This connects back with that first step, but if you can provide users some flexibility so that they can customize the device to fit their needs, again, I think you're going to have happier users overall. And the less you're managing, meaning obviously you want to manage all your devices, but the less on each device that you're trying to manage as an IT group, then you're providing a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more, or you're increasing the chances that things are going to work the way you want them to. So this has been, again, a pattern we've seen with our customers who are the most successful, is they really pare it down to the absolute, to what is mandatory for management, and that's where they start. And then last, I'd really encourage you to share your ideas. What is your experience with this? What works for you? Where do you find challenges? And you can find a great network of other IT professionals at Jamf Nation who are eager to collaborate with you on this. So 2 more, and then I'll take Q&A here. If you're not already using Jamf Pro, I'd really encourage you to head to jamf.com. You can start a trial there. You can get a demo. You can learn more about this management solution. If you want to learn more from our webinar series, we've got lots of other webinars, including more information about Apple School Manager, if you want to learn more about that. And then Jamf Nation, which is again available at jamf.com. You can head to Jamf Nation and you can get the real story from other users, other IT pros just like you, and you learn how they're using these devices. All right, thanks so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.